and
Oddworld.
Hey oddballs, I'm your host Jensen, and welcome to episode 170. It is October 1st, which is officially spooky month. And it's happy and sad because it's kind of coming to a close, but honestly, I have spooky decor up year round, so it's never really over for me. And no, it's not like, not that it matters, but it's not like I have Halloween decorations up all year round. I just have some cute little subtle ghosts and skeletons here and there, just cause like, I like weird, odd shit. But anyhow, it might be a longer episode today because the section in the psychic book is a little bit longer, but we're gonna dive into it. So here we go. It's
Lesson time.
Today's psychic lesson is find your belief. To help keep you grounded and in balance, you can count on some help. If you participate in an organized religion, you can rely on the divinity or divinities of that belief system. In fact, many psychics belong to an organized religion. Your psychic ability is part of your soul. As ancient as any religion, God, as that being is understood by modern religions, is a part of all that is good. The divine works for the betterment of humankind. That is, God's role is also that of the universal mind. It is possible that you cannot define exactly what you believe. It may be that you see God as part of nature, the oceans, forests, mountains, and all things living on earth and in the sky. That is okay, as long as you believe that there is a positive force somewhere in the universe that watches over you and others. Whoever that being or higher power is, that is your belief. Okay, I lied. I didn't read the whole section because it does get really long, but that's a good stopping point. Mostly because you start with what you believe, right? Whether you believe in a God or if, like the book said, you believe in God as like the earth, basically. And I think that's good because basically it's just saying whatever good energy you believe in, that's your belief. Which means I guess you also have to have a belief in a bad energy, right? But then what would it be for people who don't believe in good and bad? Those are actually the people that I have a question for. Like, do you believe in good and bad? Like just energies, period? Not even necessarily a God, but like just good and bad. I don't know. But let's go ahead and move on to these stories.
This comes from historical_square446 on Reddit.
I come to y'all seeking guidance, as the situation itself is very confusing to me. I haven't even brought it up to my wife since I don't want to sound like I'm crazy. So let me start off by giving a little insight. I'm 26 years old, stable job. Me and my longtime girlfriend got married a little over a year ago. I have a beautiful daughter who's turning 5 pretty soon, and me and my wife are still unsure of where we want to live permanently. So we signed a new lease with an apartment back in June. The apartment is a beautiful home. 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Nothing huge, but it fits our small family pretty comfortably. The first few weeks in the new apartment were your typical new home feels. Settling in and all. New rooms. It all felt very normal. I would say middle July, I started noticing things, and I couldn't quite explain, but just shrugged off as maybe I just forgot. For example, I would find my keys in places I would never set them. My wife and daughter denied putting them in said location. Again, I just shrugged it off. The lights would randomly turn on or flicker, probably just an electrical problem. The home is older. Same with the faucets. The water would sometimes be on. Whatever, not a huge deal. Shoes would be in a different part of the house. Probably just my daughter, as she has a vivid imagination. This continues until about the middle of August, where things started getting weirder. I would have really out of normal dreams. Just really weird dreams you can't quite explain. Then it moved to me waking up every morning, regardless of the time I went to sleep, at 1:30 a.m. Every day. It was getting pretty frustrating. Then added on feelings of being touched in my sleep, waking me up. Like, I'm talking real physical touch, where I would ask my wife to stop touching me in my sleep. And she would respond with, "She's
I'm
not touching me."
you.
Weird. And it kept happening on the regular. Not daily. However, I am still waking up at 1:30 a.m. almost every day. There's a constant feeling of I'm being watched. Like, I feel someone staring at me, but no one is there. It's a strange feeling. Well, last night, or I guess this morning, I got off work at 2 a.m. Got home closer to 3. My wife has to wake up at 6 a.m. to go to her job. So I decided I was just going to sleep on the couch since I wanted to catch up on some Netflix shows, and I rarely have free time to do so, and ended up falling asleep. So I ended up falling asleep, if I had to guess, right around 4 a.m. with the TV still on. I know, bad habit. Tonight was one of the weirdest things yet. Yet again, I felt like I was touched on my shoulder in my sleep, and it made me jump awake, kind of scared, and I looked around to see what it was. In my apartment, the living area is all connected. So the kitchen is behind the living room and right beside the dining room. All open, no doors connecting one or the other. When I sat up on the couch, my eyes drifted to the kitchen, and every single cabinet was open. The breaker box was open. The microwave was opened. All of my drawers were opened. The pantry was opened. The AC housing door was opened. And my first thought was, someone is in the house. So I immediately grab my firearm and go room to room. Nothing out of the ordinary. Before I closed everything, I decided to take a quick picture, which I will post in the comments. And it came out super distorted, and I can't explain it. I'm faced with genuine confusion on what to do. I plan to start praying more, and maybe going to church more often, since we really only go once or twice a month. Can anyone offer insight, maybe some advice on what to do? I genuinely feel like I'm going crazy, but this is starting to get weirder. Here's an update. It is now 2 a.m. Been awake reading comments for about 45 minutes. I woke up at 1:20 because my dog started barking. But other than that, everything feels normal right now. I said a prayer last night that the comments recommended, and I think it's a little too early to say it helped, but I don't have that feeling of being watched right now. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to ask your wife if she's seen anything or just bring it up to her, but also, like, I don't know how she feels about this stuff, but I'm kind of wondering whatever spirit is there is just trying to get your attention. It seems like maybe they're kind of a little pissed off that you're there, and maybe they're trying to scare you type of thing. Like, it's starting to feel like The Others, one of my favorite movies. It's almost like they're living on one side and you're living on the other, and honestly, if you haven't seen The Others, you need to go watch it. It is officially spooky season. Start off your spooky season with The Others. And no, I'm so not sponsored. I just love that movie, but I also love Poltergeist too. So, hey, if either of you guys want to sponsor me, that'll never gonna happen. But anyhow, it's just feeling like they're trying to get your attention. And well, God, since both of my favorite movies are completely opposite of each other, where Poltergeist kind of gets aggressive and just eats the whole house, really, and The Others is just kind of like they coexist. They're very different with how the paranormal stuff in the movies are. Let's just put it this way. If it doesn't feel negative, then it feels like the spirit doesn't want you there. And with me growing up in a house that I guess is haunted, was haunted, still is haunted. I don't know, visited is really more of the word I like, but you just kind of have to say out loud, hey, we can coexist, but this is not going to happen. You stay on your side, I stay on my side. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. Stop having me wake up at 1:30 a.m. Like, this is crazy. And then see kind of how it goes from there. Now, obviously you have a religion, so you could also turn to that and continue to pray and do whatever you've got to do there too. But if I were you, I would try to, even though it might be like scary to you, I would try to feel out the vibes of the place and see if it's, if it's malicious feeling or just spooky, because it can be scary but not malicious. And I hope that makes sense, because literally if it doesn't feel malicious, then I would just say you have to stop. You can stay here, we can coexist, but you cannot scare me and you cannot wake me up and touch me anymore. Now if it feels malicious, well then we've got some bigger problems, and it might be time to try to cleanse the space. Maybe, I don't know. You could even ask the landlord truthfully if they know anything about it. Never hurts to ask. But since you've updated it and it doesn't feel maybe like anything is happening, and maybe what you did was okay. Also, since you have a dog, I would also say that you can't bother my animals either. I don't know. It's just something that kind of worked for me. It's not always perfect, but if you look at the spirit as just a soul, a human soul on the other side, then it's a little less scary. And I hope that helps. But if any of you guys have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. And let's go ahead and move on to the next story.
This comes from vegetable_grade_8258 on Reddit.
I wanted to share an experience I had when I was a child in hopes of maybe finding someone who's had a similar experience. This experience happened in California. I was about 12 to 13 years old, and it was a pretty warm summer night. I was living in some apartments during this time, and in the summers, my friends and I would sit outside on the stairs, since I lived on the second floor, and just hang out until it was too late to be out. One night, it was just my sister and I on the stairs until she had to go to the bathroom. So I was left alone when all of a sudden, not even 5 minutes have passed by, when I see something glowing peek from the apartments that were across from mine. At first I thought it was a large flashlight from a security guard or something, but then it fully came out and started hovering towards me. I was in awe, too shocked to move or say anything. This ball of light was the size of a basketball and very, very bright. So it wasn't see-through. It seemed like it had a lot of energy, and the shape wasn't consistent because of its glow. When it got too close to me, it moved slightly to move behind me, then hovered upstairs towards my door, and just floated around for a while. Still in shock, I started to look around me, hoping just one person would walk by and witness what I was looking at, but no one ever did. When I realized no one came around, I yelled for my parents, but they just ended up ignoring me. So I just continued staring at this ball of light. After about a minute or two, it came down again around me and began hovering back towards the back apartments across mine. I contemplated in following this ball of light, but I was afraid of what would happen next. Till this day, I wonder what would have happened if I actually did follow it. However, I do ask myself some questions that will never be answered. Like, was I being watched? Did this ball of light somehow know that I was going to end up alone out there? Or was it just some coincidence that my sister suddenly had to go to the bathroom and no one would be there to witness this with me? Or what would have happened if I did end up following this light behind some building? Maybe I'm just overthinking this, but it's some thoughts I've had late at night. Has anyone else ever experienced something like this? Okay, so my first thought was ball lightning, but as I continued to read the story, I don't think it was ball lightning because that's just not how it moves. So my questions back are, did it have a sound to it? Because maybe it was some kind of weird toy fly thing. I don't know. Or maybe it was some kind of freaking creepy ass ghost thing, ball of light that was trying to lure you in to somebody's freaking apartment. Ew, what if? Okay, now I'm going down a hole that is just completely made up, but come with me. So what if there is a person in one of those apartments who has some kind of weird ability to create light and mesmerize people into following it back to their apartment, and then I'm sure you can guess the rest. I don't know what happens to these people. Honestly, you could make a horror movie out of this, and whatever happens at the apartment when they get there, that is up for your brain to imagine. Because mine goes a million different directions, and I'm just glad that you didn't follow that ball of light, because just what if? Now, on the good side of things, what if it was a spirit that was genuinely trying to get you purposely to come that way? Because what if there was something that you needed to see? See? Now I'm throwing more questions in your head, and I am sorry. But now I have a lot of questions going through my head, and yeah, this isn't the first ball of light story that I've had, but it's the first one that I've had that has kind of moved from its location over to somebody and then moved back. That's crazy. So I'm curious too if anybody else has had an experience like this. What do you guys think about this? I need to know. Do you have a story, either story today or any paranormal story in general? Let me know. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And well, it's an odd world after all. Oddballs. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever podcast platform you listen on. If you have any comments for this episode, comment below or head over to Instagram and comment on this episode's preview. To submit a story or for more information, go to it'sanoddworldafterall.com.